Hello and welcome to the question of the day today. Today's passage is what you can see on the screen and it focuses on the main point. Just to revise what main point is, the main point of any passage talks about the data or the conclusion that we can draw from what the author has written. So usually a passage will have certain facts in it and certain specific details, but there will always be a point that the author is trying to make through the passage. So our job is to find out why the author is telling us this information today, why the author is sharing with us this information today. So let's go onto the screen and check the passage for today. Remember, we have to answer the question, what is the purpose of the author's sharing this information with us today? What is the author trying to bring home by discussing something? For example, here the author is discussing the concept of politics that changed during this latter half of the 20th century. So let's read what happened in the United States and what changed in the latter half of the 20th century. So if you see, the author over here talks about the early part of the 20th century and what happened in the United States politics in regard to literature. It was more limited reflection of European dissatisfactions, and it gives details of what was there in the European dissatisfactions, the battles of the left and right, the bleak influence of European existentialism. This changed the priorities of particularly the drama and brought forth writers like Faulkner, Steinbeck, Richard Wright. European opinion colored the critical reception of much United States writing. Now the author again brings in this very important keyword, however. However, the later 20th century, which began after the furor of the challenging 1960s rights movement in both race and gender, politics took on a much more inclusive definition. And that meant rather than just being about government policies, it stemmed from the basics like human versus non-human. So this passage or these two paragraphs here, the author is trying to show us what was the difference in the politics in the early part of the 20th century versus the later part of the 20th century. So what captures the main point? Option A says the idea of politics changed in the second half. That is true. The idea of politics did change. B is absolutely incorrect because European existentialism did not play an unrecognized role. It had a role. The word politics has a nebulous meaning, probably is true, but is it ever changing when it comes to literature? Can't say. This much information is not given to us. We cannot answer ever changing. Remember to answer every or ever or all. Some of those words should be written in the passage. So these words usually have to be eliminated in main point answers because they are not written in the passage. The style of American literature is not as standardized. This is absolutely out of the scope of the passage because the passage is focusing on the change in the word or change in the dealing or idea of politics in the early half of the 20th century versus the second half. So this was the question of the day today. I hope you liked it.